Today, we're joined by Hannah Ryu, the co-founder and head of business development at Oak Theory. I'm so honored to have you on the podcast today, Hannah.
I'm so excited to be here. No, I'm so happy you're starting this podcast. I was like, yes, the subject is super needed. So thank you for having me.
Before we get into the business, I want to start with you as a person. Who is Hannah? How do you define yourself?
Oof. Um, this year's definition is definitely different from last year's, which I'm personally happy about. I would say I'm Korean. I live in America, so I am a child of immigrants. First daughter of Korean American immigrants, which is a niche in itself. I live in New York, so I'm a New Yorker, and I have a beautiful family. My husband and I have been together for, I don't know, like 12 to 15 years now. And I have two little boys. I have a 8-month-old baby and a 3-year-old toddler who is super fun at this age. And so I'm a mother, and I'm a business person. So I started with my co-founder Veronica Oak Theory 6 years ago now. And we just launched Under the Oak, which is a media storytelling platform where we're going to talk a lot about technology and what it means to be human, especially in this age. So I think overall, I would say I'm like a curious, creative being, and I'm here on earth to really I want to live as many lives as possible. So, yeah.
That is such a beautiful way of putting it. A curious, creative being. And I definitely think that that comes through in your business and how you
Mhm.
express yourself.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about the beautiful people who made you a mother. I'd love to hear more about them.
Yeah, so Aiden Junho is his Korean name. Aiden is 3.5, and he is so cute. He looks like me, but has the personality of my husband, which is so interesting to see when you become a
Mm,
mom. You're like, oh. And then
mm,
Julian Sungho, he is 8 months old, and he is like a big boy who is like I could tell he probably has a little bit more of my personality maybe, and he looks like my husband. So it's cool to see like your partner and you swap in looks and also personality. Because I heard that like one child is supposed, if you have multiple children, like one child teaches you more, like they give you big lessons, and maybe that child is the one that's more like you, I hear.
mm.
But so yeah, I have two little boys, and they are super cute. They're currently with my parents, where Aiden's in daycare, but in school and pre-K, and Julian's with my parents. And I also have a really strong village, which is
Yeah.
like in this day and age, especially in the States, like it's something that I don't take for granted. And so I have a strong village here, and I'm super grateful because it allows me to do like all
Mm.
my work.
I so relate to you when you talk about, having kind of that split identity as a daughter of immigrants. I'm an immigrant, so my children are of me.
Where did you immigrate
Yeah.
from?
So I'm from South Africa and
Mm,
moved over to the United States over a decade ago. So
mhm,
I often think about my children's identity and how I can
mm,
help shape it in as much as, they want to be
mhm.
in as much as they want to identify with it and want to carry that forward in their lives. And then I also noticed that you mentioned both names, which my children also have. And it
Yeah,
can be so funny because when we're speaking with family, we
yeah,
use their native name.
yeah.
But in school and everywhere else, they have,
Their
the
English
American
name.
name.
Hmm. Yeah.
How do you navigate that identity, culture with your children? You
Hmm.
mentioned your village as well, which is so important.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot because
Mm,
especially in Korean American culture, most of us have Americanized names in the States. Like I have my American name and my or English name, and my Korean name, and purely I came here when I was 8 years old, and so I remember like assimilating or having to assimilate, and I remember people mispronouncing my name all the time and getting like embarrassment heat, like the heat rising in my body because it's more than the name is so it carries so much weight and it's part of your identity and um, over time with a name that can't be pronounced well, it creates shame and it creates a sense of like otherness. And so that's why we have English names. Like you assimilate. I'm never gonna look like, the majority here, but it's the way we assimilate. But with my children, where I'm, 1.5 second generation, and my kids are, born here, it's I for sure like feel a big urgency for them to know their identity and know their roots and where they come from. And like I think it's my duty and job to make sure they have as much resource and knowledge and history of who they are in this world and in the States so that they can understand themselves in the context of their world. So sometimes I think about it. I'm like, oh, I like wonder if we, should have given them their Korean name as their first name instead of like it's a definitely like a. But then I remember how I felt as a child too.
Yeah.
So I have this protectiveness of them wanting. I don't want them to people to mess up their names and that be
Yeah.
their experience. So it's tricky being like an immigrant family or having dual bicultural upbringing, but it's also it's such a like I lived a lot of my life in New York and in Queens and Long Island, and it's a very diverse borough. Like Queens is super diverse, and it's so beautiful because you just having multicultural, you just see the world differently. Like you have words in your language that can describe feelings that are not even translatable in English. And so I think it creates a whole like layer. Like, it's like you get two worlds.
I'm laughing because I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes I'll tell my husband, who's American, like, I wish I could explain to you in my language what this means because it's
Hmm.
so much funnier, or
Exactly.
it's so much more intense, or it's so much.
Yes.
There's just so many words that just are not easy to translate.
Yeah. We just keep that our inside joke. We're like, yeah.
That's incredible. All
Yeah.
right, and so when did the business come? Before or after the kids?
It came um, a year and a half before my first, before Aiden, and that was like a crazy journey. But yeah, so we started in 2020, and the way we started was Veronica. Veronica is she's a black woman, and if you're listening and not watching, I'm Asian and I'm Korean, and we worked together in tech and design. And so when we saw each other in our worlds, we were like, oh my gosh, you don't look like everyone else here. Like it's mostly men too. And like mostly, and it's a very skewed type of industry. And so we were like, let's start something together. Let's like be not just being on the ground floor, designing and creating and being the creative behind things, but we want to be in the room making decisions and pushing boundaries and calling things out and changing the way we design for the world we live in, which is, a lot of us that are not reflected. And so that's how we got together and started Oak Theory. And we get to work on really cool projects where we get to push the narrative and push the status quo of how things are portrayed and designed and developed. And in terms of, yeah, so I got pregnant like a year and a half or year into the business, and it was a crazy time. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like it was so crazy, and I think we bootstrapped everything. And again, thank God I had like my great partner, my husband, to support and to be there. But in terms of my own ambition and my own like need to like achieve, like it was working like against that versus, and then like being pregnant and having a baby and being a first time mom, like it clashed a lot. And sometimes I think back on it and I have sadness about that time too, because I felt like I couldn't pick my priorities almost because they were both so important to me. But I also have a lot of grace on myself that like I had to go through that and like understand like my values and what's important. But I'm very high achieving, and so I really wanted our business to grow and blah blah blah. And So yeah, it was like a messy time.
I mean, starting a company is all consuming, right? And
Hmm.
then you add on this layer of, oh, wow, you're bringing a human being into this world, and that is all consuming too. I mean,
Hmm.
how when you found out you were pregnant, if you don't mind sharing, what were the thoughts that kind of went through your head about, this all-consuming experience and then
Hmm.
layering a baby on top of that?
Yeah, I will also caveat that where I was in my life at that time when I was starting my company, I definitely led with curiosity. My question was like, can we do this and like succeed? And can we be we're like 0.1% of UX UI creative tech firms that are women, like women of color owned and led. And so we're like, can we do it? Like, yes, we could do it. And can we and our big question was, can we be ourselves while we're doing it? Like, can we not code switch? Can we not act more corporate or formal and be someone else and perform while we're doing it? It's like, can we be truly ourselves? So that was the question. And we have been really successful in that. And it came with some sacrifices and really cringy moments and feeling like we're going against the grain. And the way I felt during that time when I got pregnant was so I was really curious about that, but I'm also very ambitious. And my so much of my values of who I am as a person was tied to my achievements, and that's like real talk. And so I at times like when I got pregnant, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this going to get in the way of my like achievement? Is this going to get in the way of me being able to like succeed?" And I had times where I felt envious of men. Like, "Oh, they don't have to worry about like choosing one or the other." And when we're talking about choosing, it's not even just carrying, it's like the physical toll, the hormonal toll, like your body splitting open toll, like everything that comes with it. And I also felt shame that I felt that way. Like, because I was like, I don't feel like one of these moms who were just like gleefully happy that I was like, there are moms who can't get pregnant. Like, it was like a cycle of shame because like I thought I
Oh,
should
yes.
feel something, you know? And so it was complex, I would say.
Mm,
Like, it was complex. Um, and also when my son was born, he had to go through a couple of like big medical
mm-hmm.
procedures and stuff. And so it was all consuming. And looking back on it now, I feel like it was like God intervening and really like showing me what's important and, really trying to reshape and shift my priorities and my understanding of what success looks like. But for sure, back in, the early days, I felt like, no, like my value as a person and my it's correlated with my output and my achievement and it has to look like linear. So it was complex.
I think complex is such a good way to put it. And in thinking about this podcast, I'm a mom. I'm a mom of two too, with
Yeah.
two boys. And I've made so many incredible friendships with so many founders who are also moms.
Mm-hmm.
And over again, I think about who signs up for this
Mm-hmm.
because this is smushing together two of the most challenging, difficult journeys ever, probably, in terms of business and personal life, specifically sounds complex. I think that's that's a great way to capture it. And I know that you think about energy a lot in your business, masculine energy, feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
For folks who don't often think about that,
Mm-hmm.
what can you share and what does that look like for you?
Ooh, that's such an interesting topic. Also, wait, how old are your boys?
Yeah, they are 3 years old, and I have a
Oh,
6 month old who's almost seven. And
okay, so we're on the same track.
okay, so we're both dealing with running after people who are moving in
Hmm.
different directions at different
Hmm.
paces.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, same
That's
track.
incredible. We need to start a
Yeah,
little club because my
I
co
know.
host, Jessica, is also on the same track.
Okay, I heard that this is one of the toughest times,
Are you
so
kidding?
hang in there.
We are not well. I think that's okay to say.
I know, and I was like talking to some friends, and they were like, "No, this is like when you and your husband could feel like total roommates, and it's okay. Like it will also
Yeah.
pass because we're just kind of like being we're just doing chores with each other."
That's how I stay sane. I remind myself that it won't last forever,
It
and one day
doesn't.
they'll go to college,
Right.
and I'll look around the house and
Yeah.
miss them.
But it's still a lot in the moment. We don't
Of course, no.
Yeah.
I'm well. Give me a t-shirt. I'll wear it. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a lot. But yeah, your question on feminine and masculine energy, like it's something that I've been personally really like mulling over the last couple of months because and the reason I said earlier about like hey like I'm a first generation daughter of immigrants and I said that's a niche group it's my theory but I think a lot of us could relate there we as women like as girls like I had to translate for my parents growing up I had to be like an adult really quickly when I was young and so it brought a lot of my masculine side out. And what I mean by masculine and feminine, it's not like gendered. It's more like the way I understand it is masculine energy is more go, do, action oriented, like execute. Feminine energy is more intuition, intuitive, empathetic, thinking about things in circles instead of lines. That's how I think of it. And over my life, I'm in my 30s now, like most of my life was leaning on my masculine side because I realized that's what allowed me to survive or to get ahead. And it was, I think it started really early from just being, having to kind of grow up early in my childhood. And so that's it. And if you're like listening to me, you could probably feel that too. Like I'm just like, but like this year, I've been intentional about understanding where that comes from. And I have moments where I'd really burn out from that. And I realized over time that like it's because I'm not feeding the other part of me, like the feminine part of me. And of course I have it. And of course, like we all have different like spectrum of it. And I think business is very male. And I think like the, you know, just the way, if you, I mean, if you look, think about it, like why are we always fighting for mothers or for women to have as much access or to have time off? It's because it's not made around our needs and our body cycles. It's made around like do go 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 and that's what men can mostly fulfill if you put us side by side because
Right,
we have other things like we give life and so
right.
I think becoming a mom to two is what really kind of helped me like settle more into my femininity and it's been like really beautiful because I feel more like at peace and I feel more like right like we I am more than my work I am a mom like I provide like care and like when I see Julian like my 8 month old like just hugging me because I was away on a work trip and just that like it's just invaluable and it's brought me really back down to the earth like and I think that's a whole other thing of like being close to mother nature in my femininity but that it's not about just doing more and getting more and like capitalism but it's also about thinking about our community and how we're impacting our environment and you know I think becoming a mom has really impacted me in that regard.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful. Is there a ritual that you try to do every day or something that helps you maybe stay consistent with
Yeah.
this?
Right now it's a little bit hot in New York, but in the spring I would stroll walk for like, you know, 3 to 4 miles every morning and and I would just look around at all the trees and all the flowers and I would just be fascinated by just how it changes day over day with the weather. And so and like another contrast was before like I'm a very physical person so I would train really hard at the gym and I felt like I had to go really hard in order to like make progress and I started strolling with my son because it was what felt accessible to me and I was like amazed at how much it brought me down to earth of like just looking at the trees around me on my walk and like in this like cookie cutter suburb but still there's like so much beauty and nature and that we've occupied over time but like just it's a great reminder of like okay we live on this planet that gives all of this for free for us and just having walks with my like baby I think really changed my life because it like reminded me of like everything that we already have access to.
Of course, we have this beautiful earth, and sometimes there's so much pressure, external or internal, where we feel like we have to accomplish so much and we're so
Mhm.
driven, and then we lose out on making time and room to enjoy all of these beautiful resources and even the
Mhm.
time together. Um, and so, in an interesting way, I look at my kids sometimes and think about. I try to remind myself that they're discovering everything for the first time.
Mhm.
I have decades on them. And
Mhm.
so that's I think that's how try to give myself permission to
Yes.
slow down
Mhm.
and go, yeah, yeah, join them on this journey of discovery. It's
Yeah,
okay. It's
yeah, yes.
okay.
I know. And it's like, so, yes, you're right. Like, that's the other thing I do with my, like, just following my toddler. And, like,
Yes.
he's so into, like, the solar system. And then I forgot we live in the solar system. And, like, we're like a tiny dust in,
Yes.
like, a huge ecosystem. Like, yes. And I think children are, oh, it's such a gift because they remind us, like, of the real things, like, real little things that we take for granted. So, yes, I agree. Same here.
Was there ever a point in your founder journey and your motherhood journey where it all just became too much?
Hmm.
Yeah. She's like, uh-huh, no
Yeah, which
hesitation.
one? Which kind?
Which day? Last week, last month, or last year?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think, um, like I said earlier, like I have a really great village, and I used to be afraid of saying it out loud, and I think I felt shame that it meant I wasn't independent enough, which is like
Hmm.
crazy to think about, but like I felt like I had to hold everything. Like it was like I had to figure everything out, but I I my husband and I moved in with my in-laws because we both have businesses and my parents are nearby. So we moved to kind of like where we grew up, and we didn't think we would want to do that, but we did all that so that we can like pursue our businesses and pursue our creative pursuits and have freedom, and also it's like also have our kids understand their culture and their roots and like know the language. Like my toddler knows Korean fluently, and I love it because I if it was just us, like he probably wouldn't. And so yeah, I think just like having a village helped me a lot, like setting that up so that I understood like my limits. But yeah, of course, like all the time. Like there are times where I would want to like my brain is going and I want to work on something for my business, but then my kids need to be put down for bed and I can't rush that type of process. And I would have this kind of like tug of war in my heart of like, I wish I could be in two places at once, or I wish I could be, I could have double the amount of hours per day. And that's been like a struggle for a lot of my business and like raising kids. And like recently I was just thinking about how like I need to also accept like what is and do my best with like what we're given. So, yeah.
Mm. So your kids call you and your husband in Korean. What do they call
Hmm.
you?
I'm Amma and
Um,
Amma and Appa.
and they call their grandparents.
할머니 and 할아버지.
Beautiful. I always think
Yeah.
that's so interesting. We're
Yeah.
mama and papa,
Okay.
and
Nice.
then they call the grandparents. Well, it's different. On my
Hmm.
side, it's Koko and Mkulu, which is Zulu. And then on my husband's side, it's Grammy and Jaja.
Oh,
So it's just,
yeah.
but it's just so interesting. Like not all kids use the same
Yeah.
language even. And I'm really thinking about that village dynamic, right? And how their perception of the world and life and relationships is so it starts with you and the people
Yeah.
closest to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
100%.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into some fun questions.
Okay.
What has been your most chaotic work location? Like you looked around and you were like, Hannah, really? Are we doing this right now?
I was on a call, like sitting in like the middle of my like parents' like living room, like holding my infant, and 'cause I still wanted to take this call, and it was actually a moment because I remember trying to not make it chaotic as possible for a sense of professionalism and a sense of like that's how I've always shown up. Like, no, everything's good. Like everything feels controlled behind me is how I like to show up. But I was in this phase of like, no, let's accept what is and see how it goes and make normalize more of the reality instead of trying to force fit into like, you know, fake reality sometimes. And so like I was just like on the floor on my phone, like my postpartum hair is like this, like sticking up and um like that's why I've been wearing a hat. It's just like my postpartum hair growth is like, and I have straight hair, like, and so it's like it goes like this. Anyway, so like
It's
crazy
a great
hair,
hat.
like
She's wearing a
my
hat that says
infant's like
Queens.
pulling on my hair. And like the dogs are barking, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, this is the environment, but I'm listening to you. And it was still a good conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious about how you define success in your life as a mom, as a founder. Like what is all of this for you?
Um, Again, I think it's changed so much in the last year. Like, for example, last year was about like metrics, like, you know, hitting a certain amount of revenue, having a certain amount of team, or it's more like you have to keep growing. Everything's about more, more, more. That was what I understood as success. And obviously, like that's like financially, like just uh, like acquisition, it's just like growth. That's success. And I was working against that type of definition for a while, and it burned me out really, really badly. This now where I'm at today, I really believe like success is liking who you are, liking what you're doing in the way that you're doing it, and butchering the quote. But I think at the end of the day, for me, like success now feels like I get to be creative. I get to provide for my family while being creative in something that I like enjoy doing. And most importantly, I get to buy back time. So I get to have time because like you know, with your toddler and infant, like it goes by so quickly. And I just want like I want to have all the time to enjoy them. And I think if I could create a life where that's possible, then that's like success.
I think that's so beautiful, liking who you are. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna be you. The kids will move out, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and you're left with yourself. And so
Mm-hmm.
aspiring for that feeling of peace with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, I think is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think about that more
Yeah.
and what success means for me, but I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
starting point.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, oh my goodness. For me, it's kind of similar to yours, and that's why I refer to peace a lot.
Mm-hmm.
At the forefront of my life, I really try to ground my life in peace and joy
Mm-hmm.
and think about how I contribute that to others
Mm-hmm.
and how I prioritize that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So peace could look like boundaries, time blocking,
Mm-hmm.
prioritization, using
Mm-hmm.
tools and systems to keep me
Mm-hmm.
sane.
Mm-hmm.
And then joy is like remembering to enjoy my kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
even this morning, complete chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go into it, but at one point, my husband, my toddler and I were just lying on the bed, and he just wanted to be with me, and I went, you know what? This feels good. Because on
Mm-hmm.
Monday, I was like, oh my goodness, there's no summer camp this week. What am I going to do? And then in that moment with him, I thought, this, like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I can do now. I
Mm-hmm.
can just hug
Mm-hmm.
my used to be baby
Mm-hmm.
for like 5 minutes. And that felt good.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And like having like a slow morning, I think is a privilege to be able to have
Oh,
like a slow
for
morning.
sure.
Yeah.
For
And do you
sure.
have like a place, like when you talked about peace, I agree with you. Do you have like a place in your body, like kind of you know where that is? Like you kind of like if you're outside of you, like, oh, I have to go back to that place.
Yeah, I definitely think like in my chest,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I feel like whenever I feel anxiety, that's the first place it comes up.
Mm.
It's like that, just that the
Mm-hmm.
heart's beating fast, that
Mm-hmm.
tightness, that
Mm-hmm.
just, and then I think if anything's happening in your core, it spreads really quickly to the rest of your body.
Mm.
Whether you feel cold or hot or some kind of
Mm.
emotional thing is going on, it can take over your entire system
That's
quite
true.
efficiently.
Hmm.
So I try to keep that, you know,
Yeah.
like just hold it. What about you?
Yeah, I think same. It's
Mm,
like right below my chest, and I've been
mm,
able to like being more in my feminine energy. I think I've identified it better. Like I know where that place is. So when I feel anxious or I feel a little bit like
mm.
frazzled, like I could come back to that place. And yeah, it's so important to protect it because our kids feel it too.
Yeah. Even
Hmm.
just putting your hand there for a few seconds,
Hmm.
it can feel so grounding. I wonder if it's just an evolutionary thing and that's
Hmm.
why babies like to be
Hmm.
held to
Yeah.
like chest to chest. There has
Yeah.
to be something
It
about
must
that.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
100% must
Okay.
be.
I think we just unlocked something cool, Hannah. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure somebody's realized this before.
Yeah.
What are what are some tools and systems that help you? Uh, like apps,
Mm,
maybe partnering with your husband.
mm.
How do you keep it all together?
Um, having like asking for help, like having a
Mm,
village for sure, because there's like the trust of knowing like, you know, people who love your kids, like um to take care, it's just like it's invaluable. I would say having a village and community, which I know not everyone has access to, but that's been like
mm,
number one. And then number two would be I mean like I personally I'm in technology and I'm on you know I definitely think we could do so much good with technology and we talk about this in our in under the oak and some of the blog posts that we wrote and articles about the fine line with it, but I use it a lot for motherhood. Like I use it to like I use my AI tools to help me plan a trip, for example, so I could get a lot of the mental load off of me. I use it to help me mirror back some of the things that I'm thinking so that I could clarify my thoughts so that it's not weighing on my head as much and it could kind of come in and out and I could process it through that and journaling. And so I do a lot, I love journaling because it's a place where I can like let my all of these like, you know, because I think when your mind is heavy, everything else is heavier. And so any tool like, you know, writing to help process whatever I'm going through or working through and also being in community like when I hang out with friends who are not founders who are not like building a business and also being in community with other like moms like that helps so much because it's a sense of like okay we're all doing this together and it is crazy and nuts but we get to like laugh about it while we're like chasing our kids and like can't finish the sentence but it just feels like you're part of a club. We're like okay we're all going through it.
Yes, well, we're all going through it. I need to put that on a mug.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Um, I was thinking, I know you mentioned AI, and I know
Mm,
that's such a core part of your work.
mm,
Hannah, I don't know. There's just a lot of pressure
mm,
out there. Are the moms using AI? Because I just keep hearing these messages that we're using AI wrong or
mm,
something.
mm,
How do you incorporate it in your life at work? I know you mentioned planning your vacation and stuff.
mm.
Any tips for anybody who keeps hearing about AI and isn't quite sure how to use it?
Yeah, I would say the simplest way to think about it is it's a new technology tool. It's pretty powerful. It's like we're in like internet 1990s. Like it's early and it's going to change the way we communicate, the way we live ultimately, and it's moving pretty fast. I would say if you're skeptical about it and if you're not sure, like reading things and I think going like experiencing it firsthand is the best way and seeing like how make it work for you. It's a tool. It's there to help you. Like and I think that's the part that we need to remember like as humans is that it's a tool, it's a technology. It is not human. And which begs the question of like what does it mean to be human in a world where we have machines that are smarter and faster and like never sleeps. And so a lot of us who are workaholics or we live the majority of our life is spent on sleeping and working. If we're not if so much of like working or processing and you know if that's replaced by that could be replaced by machines like AI, then what does it mean to be human? And
Mm.
I I would say so make it work for you so you don't have to do the menial work so that you could spend more time with your kids. And so like what would you love to like as a mom, especially as a mom, we have so much. Like what do you wish you could delegate and not feel shame about it? Like what do you wish you could so for example, like planning a trip, having it do research on the places you're going to, having it plan what you could do for the weekend, give it the radius of where you know, the city you're at, where you're currently living, the type of activities you enjoy, how old are your kids. You don't have to give private information, but general information, and have it do like the research to give you options. Like use it as your assistant so that you don't have to take on the mental load to have like 10 tabs open and figure that out and make decisions. Have it give you logic on like, hey, this is how I came up with these recommendations because I know you like art. Like have it be your assistant in having take off a lot of the menial work. I would say that's probably the easiest kind of way to use it right now as if you're a mom just starting out with AI. But do whatever, like try to think of what can it help with so that you can spend more time doing what you want to be doing instead.
I love that. I love that. And I've been, experimenting with it here and there too. One of the things I've realized is you kind of have to, like an assistant, like kind of brief it in a
Hmm.
way that also makes sense and also have a POV as well. So
Hmm.
just like hotels in Toronto is like not very helpful. I think
Hmm.
sometimes like I like the idea of thinking through prompts and giving it enough
Hmm.
information about your preferences,
Hmm.
right? So that it actually spits out valuable, useful
Hmm.
information.
Yeah.
And I found that when I'm more precise about what I'm looking for, I'm actually getting better quality
Yeah.
output,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because it's a tool. Like because it's only gonna take what you give it. Like I will also
Right.
use it to like help me understand like child psychology, for
Mhm.
example. Like what is a typical 3 year old's like child development around this time? Like instead of reading, you know, a lot of books or it just like help me distill it like based on you could give it criteria, like only pull from like verified research journal papers from these universities or like if you have certain preference for your culture like you know like referencing your cultural like roots because like again we know like parenting is so subjective too like there's no right way to do anything and so
Yeah.
like using it to help like inform like your own like parenting styles because I always forget like it's our first time doing it, it's our first time being moms and like in this world and like we have so many things telling us like what a good mom looks like or you know what gentle parenting is better than this and that it's and I think it's about creating like a formula that works for you and your family. And I think AI is an incredible tool to help you understand information faster so that you can make good decisions.
Yeah, you touched on something that is really interesting because you've already shared a little bit about your attitude towards work and productivity.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say overachiever.
Hmm.
I don't, okay.
Overachiever, yeah.
And then thinking about yourself as a mom, because I
Mm,
feel like one of the traps of overachievers is trying to assess yourself as a
mm.
mom and trying to measure. Well,
Ooh,
you're smiling like you know what I'm talking
I just got
about.
chills. Uh-huh.
Right? Like,
Ugh,
how do you catch yourself when you do that?
I don't know. I that's a great assessment. Recently I had a thought about like like my understanding of my own self-value and self-worth and how it's correlates to my how it's been correlated to my output and my achievement and like where that comes from and I don't even come from a stereotypical like all the stereotypical tropes of an Asian parents like they never pushed me to be anything. They were like be a photographer. Like they were just very open and so I didn't get it from them. I think it's a combination of like just society in general and just me having personally like I think when you see your kids you're like oh they just have that from birth some of the stuff but yeah that's a great question. What I realized recently and what I've been practicing and journaling about is that in order for me to truly because when I look at my boys I'm like my gosh I love you because of just who you are like just because you are Like, I love you not because you color well or because you do anything or you output or you give me anything back. I just love you, like, unconditionally because of who you are. Yeah, and I realized that, like, though I could only practice that, and they're only going to really take that in if I emulate that for myself. And so I've been like really working on like loving my child self, like if that's a term you're familiar with, like just kind of having more grace for myself. I'm like, hey, Hannah, like you are loved because of just because who you are, and not because of your output or how your business does or how you perform as a mom that day, like what mistakes you made. Like I'm practicing it. Like I don't, it's something that I'm like actively doing, and I'm doing it because I want it to be really true for how I mother my sons. And I think if they watch me beat myself up, or if they watch me get frustrated if something doesn't go my way and my ambition, like I think they'll just take that as like, oh, that's how, that's how it should be, or you're loved. And so it's my current practice so that I could like give them that like unconditional love, and yeah, so that they could really believe it.
I think that's so beautiful. I love you because of who you are, and then also recognizing that we can love ourselves for who we are and how we show up every single day. Oh, that's a Hannah, that's the most beautiful thing I've heard in a while. Let's end with a fun question.
Okay.
How would your toddler describe what you do?
But he goes like this. He like he's like like acting like he's typing on the computer. He's like, oh, like in Korean, he'll be like, oh, are you working? Or he'll like ask me to sit next to him, like if I'm on my computer, on my laptop, and say like work here, like while I play with the dinosaurs. And so I think he thinks computer or laptop equals work, which it is mostly in my case. Or I just came back from a trip to Virginia for a conference, and he asked me like, oh, you took the plane to go work, and like are you gonna come back tomorrow? So I think he has like just those are the way he thinks of me working. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. It's so interesting to just see things from their perspective. It's very cute and very
Yeah.
revealing,
Yeah.
the way that they observe us as well.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
they're not sitting here asking like, "Oh, how was your like revenue like this
oh,
year, or how are you growing as a business next?" They're like, "Okay, like are you present? Like are you good with your work so that you could be hang out and play with me?" Like,
absolutely.
and I think about that a lot too. I'm like, "Oh, at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, like is he gonna remember me as someone who just worked, or like is he gonna remember me that I was like really there to play with him when he like needed me?" So yeah.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much, Hannah, for spending this
Yeah.
time with me. It's been wonderful hearing your story.
Thank you. It was so fun.